only mode.
Hi, we're so glad you could join us for today's webinar, Training Part 2 of Planning a Successful Community Tax Clinic in Indigenous Communities. First off, just some webinar logistics as you're getting settled at your desks. As participants in the webinar, you have been put on mute. However, if you have any questions of our panelists at any time, please use the question box on GoToWebinar at the right side of your screen and type in your question. We'll do our best to address questions as time allows and also at the Q&A session at the end portion. As part of participants registered in the webinar, you will receive a copy of our slides as well as a link to the recording within a few days if you want to listen again or pass on to your colleagues. My name is Natasha McKenna. I'm from Prosper Canada. I'm pleased again to be joined around the table by our partners and excellent presenters. We'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are joining from Toronto, which is situated on the traditional territories, including the territories of the Wendat, Anishinaabeg Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nations, and the Métis Nation. Today, the meeting place of Toronto is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to live and work in this community on this territory. So we're honored to be hosting this training with you, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. For those joining for the first time, Prosper Canada is a national charity that works with partners in all sectors to ensure that everyone living in Canada, regardless of their income, has access to financial programs, products, services, and advice they need to build their financial well-being. If you joined us in our last webinar, you'll remember this is the Indigenous Financial Wellness Framework shared by our presenter, Simon Brascoupé. This training series is focused on financial wellness and one of the key components around access to benefits and tax filing. So our presenters today are going to be providing you with information you need to get started on planning a CVITP, some best practices within their own community. And this project training is part of Prosper Canada and AFOA Canada's Financial Wellness Project, which is made possible by the support of the Ontario Trillium Foundation. With the Financial Wellness Project, we've been working with First Nations communities in Ontario so they can best assist community members in building their financial wellness, reducing financial stress, and able to manage money in ways that help them achieve their goals, dreams for themselves, their families, and their communities. So I'd like to introduce you, one final note. For those of you that were with us on November 14th, the slides are available for download and the webinar recording is here. And our presenters today, we're going to do a quick reminder of who's joining us. It's the same team. We're going to share information. We have Jocelyn Bebamikawe from Wikwemikong Unceeded territory located in Manitoulin Island, Ontario, where she works as an employment and training officer. And Jocelyn's going to share more insights from Wikwemikong's tax clinic. Simon Brascoupé is from Gitigan-Zibi Anishinaabeg Nation, Maniwaki in Quebec. And Simon is the Vice President of Education and Training for AFOA Canada. I'm Natasha, the Program Officer at Prosper Canada. And we're joined by two colleagues from the CRA, Vinoth Wimalanath, who works for the CRA as a CVITP coordinator. So for those of you in the Sudbury and Thunder Bay regions, he's a key contact for a CVITP program. And also joining us from the CRA is Jonathan Cheung. Jonathan is the CVITP coordinator for the Toronto Centre region. And Jonathan is supporting us again on the questions and answers. So a reminder, if you have any questions during the training for any of the presenters, please share those with us. And Jonathan will also be responding to questions for the CRA on the CVITP program as they come in. So it's a great opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. So on the next slide, you'll see our agenda for today. We're going to start by highlighting some promising practices for Indigenous tax clinics. And then the CRA is going to share a tax clinic planning and timeline. And Jocelyn is going to speak to Wikwemikong CVITP program and financial literacy. Simon is going to share key insights from Odawa Native Friendship Center's CVITP and insights on an Indigenous study on a study on Indigenous tax filing. Finally, we will speak a little bit about evaluating tax clinics, and the CRA will do a final checklist, and then we'll have a discussion period for questions and answers. So we'd love to hear your questions throughout the webinar, and we're going to kick off by sharing a few questions as you're getting seated. Using the chat box, please take a moment to tell us any questions that you've come to today's webinar with, or if you have questions or thoughts on the 2 questions we've shared here. So we're interested in knowing what challenges or questions you have about providing a tax filing services in your community. So we know you've probably come with a few to the session. And if you have any questions specifically about the CRA CVITP program. So we'll give you a few moments to, using the chat box, enter any questions that you have, and we will do our best to address those at the end of the session. Thank you to everyone who is taking the time to enter questions. So we're going to start with our presentation officially. And I'm going to share a couple of key highlights, and you'll hear these spoken into more detail from our presenters. But this is a promising practices for tax clinic and Indigenous communities. And it's adapted and based on work of the First Nations Development Institute in the US and some best practices that they shared for the US version of CVITP, which is the VITA program. And some of these are things for thinking about when planning a tax clinic initiative. So one of those key factors we found for success is making tax filing a community-wide effort. So if you're in a particular department, making connections with other departments to promote the clinic, for sourcing volunteers, and we'll hear that more in the examples there. The second, and this will be shared in the CRA's work, is start planning for tax season early. So tax season, we're looking at February to April, but that success factor around starting to do that planning in advance. Developing partnerships with First Nations programs, financial institutions like the CRA, and community-based organizations. So we'll hear more from there. Identifying a site location that is popular and convenient. We heard a lot in our last session on sites and considerations for challenges. Recruiting and retaining volunteers from the community. And we'll hear more about volunteer recruitment from both Simon and Jocelyn's presentation. And the key for using the CRA online training courses, but also what we found is many communities and CVITPs are supplementing additional training or practices for volunteers to prepare to file. 7 is looking at creative marketing strategies. So we're going to hear some examples there. And we're going to speak to post-tax season assessments and evaluation. So thinking about what are the main things that we're wanting to learn from the tax clinic, the impact that we're wanting to demonstrate, and what improvements we'd like to make for future years. 9 is establishing a CVITP network in your area. And Jocelyn just gave me a thumbs up there, so we're going to hear more about that. And this can be formally or informally. So some of your community partners may have a CVITP or interested, but what we're really finding for sharing what works best is hearing from what others are doing. And 10 is linking CVITP to other financial wellness programs like financial education. And we'll hear more from that. So those are, for more information, if you're interested in reading the VITA Clinic report and some of those examples, we've included a link there as well. So it's tax time savings for Native communities. And without further, actually, our next step is we want to hear a little bit from you who's on the line. Today we have a couple of quick poll questions that we're going to just launch the poll shortly. Great. So you should see that on your screen. We're curious on the line today, is your organization currently registered with the CVITP? So your options are yes, no, on my list to do, or not sure how. We'll just give it looks like we've got our poll respondents in there. Okay, we're going to close the poll and we're going to see the results coming up. All right, so we have 75% of you on the phone today are currently registered with CVITP. That's great. And 25% are not currently registered. For our next question, and this is for those of you maybe who currently have a clinic or are thinking of one, how many volunteers do you expect to have in your clinic? 1 volunteer, perhaps you're that primary person, 2 to 4, 5 to 6, or 7+. And if you're unsure, that's an option too. We're going to talk a lot more about volunteer roles and different types. Okay, thank you. We're going to close the poll there. Okay, so 9% at 2 to 4 volunteers. 27% of you have or expect to have 5 to 6 volunteers. 45% are at 7+, and then 18% are unsure. So that may be where you're at in your planning, or and so today we're gonna Vinoth will be speaking to some of the volunteer roles that are there. And then this is our final poll before diving in. We wanted to hear more about what is your motivation for helping community members with tax filing. And this is, you can select all that apply, so reducing cost barriers for tax filers, making tax filing easier for those that need help, assisting community members in accessing benefits, increasing the number of community members filing taxes, or increasing awareness and financial knowledge and confidence of community members. So again, you can check all that apply. And if there's another reason, again, you can use the chat box and share one of the services that you offer. And we'll just give another minute there for the poll. It looks like we have, most people have had a chance to respond, so we're going to close the poll and check out the answers. Okay, I think that's very cool. The 100% is around community members accessing benefits. And in the last webinar, we talked about some of the potential impact of tax filing for accessing benefits. Next up, making tax filing easier for those that need help. So recognizing some of the barriers and challenges with the forms and processes, increasing the number of community members tax filing. So you may be aware of lower tax filing rates within your community or area. And then tied at 78%, reducing the cost. So recognizing we're going to hear more about the fees for paid filing services and that barrier. And increasing knowledge and financial confidence. So one of the ways that you're able to embed that through the tax clinic work. So that's great. So I think one thing that's always good is kind of checking in and reminding why we're doing this work and what some of the things that are driving motivation for your community organization. And that can help us as well as we think through evaluation for what we're hoping to learn and what type of impact we'd like to demonstrate. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Vin from the CRA, who's going to take us next on a CVITP.
Thank you for the introduction, Natasha. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vinoth Wimalanath, and I'm supported by my colleague, Jonathan Cheung. We are both Community Volunteer Income Tax Program, or CVITP coordinators in the Ontario region. We are here today to provide a more in-depth look into getting your organization involved in the CVITP and how to host a clinic. Please feel free to continue asking your questions using the chat box on the right side of your screen. Community organizations host tax preparation clinics and arrange for volunteers to prepare income tax and benefit returns for eligible individuals. The CVITP service is offered free of charge to everyone who is assisted. This includes current and prior year returns that are prepared. As a registered CVITP organization, you will provide a valuable service to your community that will help those who need it most. By helping your community with filing their tax returns, you are ensuring that each individual receives the benefits and credits that they are entitled to, including the Canada Child Benefit, the GST credit, the Ontario Trillium Benefit, just to name a few. Registered volunteers will be provided with training online via live webinar, and in-person training can also be arranged. CVITP training will provide all the tools needed to prepare a simple tax return under the program. If you're interested in hosting a tax clinic, there are a few considerations you should make. The first is clinic duration. Organizations can choose to host clinics that are available year-round, during filing season only, and/or one-day clinics throughout the year. The duration of the clinic is totally up to the organization, and your local CVITP coordinator can also help you decide what will work best. The type of clinic. CVITP organizations can also choose how they want to run their clinic. Clinics can be held by appointment, by walk-in, drop-off and pickup, and even a shut-in service for housebound individuals. Organizations can also choose to do a combination of more than one type of clinic. The type of clinic you want to host is totally up to you, and again, your local CVITP coordinator can also help you choose what would work best. Another important consideration you should make is space and privacy and security. In regards to space, you want to consider the availability of space to host a clinic and offering privacy for taxpayers who come in. For clinics that invite taxpayers to walk in, you want to ensure that taxpayers have privacy when discussing their matters with their volunteer tax preparer. Thus, you can consider organizing desks or booths in a way that each taxpayer's matters are private. There are many duties that a volunteer can undertake. As a tax preparer, registered volunteers will prepare the income tax returns for interested taxpayers. In order to electronically file these tax returns, these volunteers must register for an e-file number. Alternatively, these volunteers can also provide a valid police record check if they will only be paper filing. We will go through the registration process a little later in today's presentation. Volunteers can also participate as screeners, where they can screen taxpayer information prior to tax filing. Screening taxpayer information can involve verifying photo IDs and tax slips to ensure that they are eligible to have their returns prepared under the CVITP. Screening can also take place over the phone if your clinic uses a drop-off model. Since the screener will be privy to taxpayer information, they must still either register for an e-file number or provide a valid police records check. Please note that registering for e-file is free of charge and takes care of the required security screening for volunteers. Thus, you do not necessarily have to be a taxpayer in order to obtain an e-file number. In addition, volunteers can also participate as a greeter, where they can greet interested taxpayers at the clinic and direct them to where they need to be. Moreover, volunteers can also participate as acting as a resource for their fellow volunteers. For instance, a clinic can choose to have a resource volunteer that is more experienced or well-versed with income tax to provide assistance to their peers. As you can see, there is no limit to how a volunteer can help at your clinic. From preparing taxes to greeting and directing taxpayers at your clinic, volunteers can take part in the program in more than one way. In addition, there is no maximum number of volunteers you can have at your clinic. You also get to screen all of your volunteers and take on as many as you can handle. Here is a suggested timeline of events if you are looking to host a clinic in as early as the upcoming filing season. This timeline outlines what events should take place between October and May of the following year. This is ideal for those organizations who are looking to host a clinic during filing season and also those who are looking to host clinics beyond. We will go through each period in more detail. October to December. Organization and volunteer registrations for every new year generally open up at the end of October. Thus, for the upcoming filing season, registrations are open right now. Interested organizations can complete a quick and easy organization registration form online. Interested volunteers can complete an equally quick and easy online volunteer registration and e-file registration as well. We encourage all interested volunteers to complete their volunteer and e-file registrations as soon as possible, as e-file registrations can sometimes take up to 30 days to process. Between October and December, in addition to getting all of your interested volunteers registered as soon as possible, you can also start to request promotional material from your local CVITP coordinator. This includes posters and pamphlets that your CVITP coordinator can mail out to help advertise your clinic. Moreover, if you're interested in receiving in-person training on site for your volunteers, you should speak to your local CVITP coordinator as soon as possible. We suggest that you start to arrange in-person training as early as possible so that your volunteers will be ready to go by the time filing season comes around. In order to start arranging in-person training, your organization, yourself, and your volunteers must be registered first. In addition, if you are interested in potentially receiving laptop donations for your clinic, you should start to request an application form from your local CVITP coordinator as soon as possible. Laptop donations are in limited supply and each application is reviewed thoroughly. We suggest applying for a laptop donation early so that you are prepared well in advance of your clinic if you're eligible. In order to apply for laptop donations, again, your organization, yourself, and your volunteers must be registered first. By the end of December, we recommend that you start to think about your clinic dates and locations for the upcoming season. The earlier that you determine your dates and locations, the easier it will be to organize your clinic. Starting in January, your local CVITP coordinator should provide you with a clinic information form that each organization must complete. This information provides us with all of your clinic details, including contact information, as well as your clinic dates and your times. This form must be completed in order for your organization to be approved and to receive the U-File software keys. Our live online webinar training will also begin in January. Once available, your local CVITP coordinator will send you the link to the training page, where your registered volunteers can register to attend the webinars that interest them. This training page will also have all of the playback recordings of each training session that your registered volunteers can download and watch at their own convenience. During this time, your local CVITP coordinator will also regularly contact you to verify your volunteer list. This is to ensure that your list of volunteers matches what we have on our system, and it is also a good opportunity to remind those volunteers who have not yet registered for e-file to do so immediately. Once your organization and volunteers are registered and a majority are e-file approved, and you have also provided your completed clinic information form, your local CVITP coordinator will be able to start issuing your U-File software keys electronically or by mail. The new U-File 2017 software keys should be available in mid-February 2018. Sorting out your volunteer registrations and your clinic information form early ensures that your clinic can start on time and run smoothly. As the keys are issued, most clinics will be underway at this time. As an organization coordinator, you will have continuous support from your local CVITP coordinator, and your volunteers will also have access to a dedicated helpline for any tax-specific questions that they may encounter while your clinic is underway. This dedicated helpline is available throughout filing season, from February to the first week of May, and is only available to registered volunteers. Also, as filing season starts, we recommend that your volunteers keep track of the number of returns that they prepare. The local CBITP coordinator can provide you with a form where your volunteers can actually track their work. As an organization coordinator, we recommend that you collect these numbers each month and keep track of how many returns your volunteers prepared collectively. These monthly numbers may be requested by your coordinator at any time and are used to help gauge the CBITP's impact in your community. After filing season ends at the end of April, your local CBITP coordinator will once again verify your volunteer lists and start to issue certificates of appreciation if requested. Certificates of appreciation are prepared for each individual volunteer to recognize their dedication and hard work during filing season and are mailed out to your organization to distribute. Your local CBITP coordinator may also start to request the numbers of returns that your organization completed for each month during filing season and beyond if you're hosting a year-round clinic. The end of filing season is also a great opportunity for you and your volunteers to reflect on your clinic, the challenges and successes you faced, as well as the response from the community can help you determine if you would like to extend the availability of your clinic year-round perhaps. Your local CBITP coordinator can help you make that determination and will continue to provide all the support that you need. I would like you all to stay tuned. Later in today's presentation, I will take you through a demo on how to get to our organization and volunteer registration links. And it will be shortly, just a little bit later today in the presentation. At this point in time, I will now pass it over to Jocelyn, who will share her own experience with her own CBITP clinic.
Thank you, Vinoth. Hello, everyone. Today we'll touch on how we set up our tax clinic in Wikwemikong, how we advertise our services, what messages we provide to the community, and what role we see for financial literacy in our community. When we first discussed setting up the tax clinic, we only had 2 volunteers. That first year, we decided the best option was to hold walk-in clinics. The main reason being that we didn't want to be left with the responsibility of protecting individuals' income tax slips or the potential follow-up required. And the first year we started in 2014, the U-file system went down, and we did accept drop-off slips from clients. And while many individuals did come back for their forms, some did not. We had to make sure to track these individuals down so that they were provided their paperwork and their income tax returns. Today, we continue to hold walk-in clinics during the tax season. These sessions run every week from March to the beginning of May. We host them every second Tuesday from 5 to 8 and every second Saturday from 9 to 1. Throughout the year, we also allow community members to book appointments to file their income tax returns. They're able to call our main office and ask to speak to one of the volunteers that work there, and they're able to see one of them when it's convenient either for them or for the client. We have another volunteer who works at the ASI Ontario Works office, and she's able to directly help her clients with filing their taxes at her location as well. Lastly, we also go to our Wikwemikong nursing home, where we assist elders in the community file their taxes every tax season. When we're talking about training of volunteers, while the volunteers do take the online training, we try not to overwhelm our volunteers. When they're first starting, we try to ensure that they're only provided very simple returns. This can include those on social assistance or those who have no source of income. From there, we then try to let them try different, more complex returns, such as those who have employment, to those who have pensions, to those who have pensions off reserve. Once the volunteer gets more comfortable, we're able to move them again to individuals who are claiming as common law or married spouses, and with those who have dependents as well. Why we like walk-in clinics. We like this model because there's a less administrative work for us to complete and less security issues we have to take into account. It also allows us to be more flexible with clients who show up to file the returns. For fairness, we always try to go in the order that a person registers. However, if elders do come in, we try to serve them first. We recognize that there are challenges with this type of clinic. The main one being that our clinics are always filled up within the first 30 minutes to the first hour, and that we open our doors. It can seem overwhelming, but we have found that community members are very understanding and patient. However, we do sometimes get an abundance of individuals who do register, and we try to make accommodation by staying later. So even though we might only be there from 5 to 8, we'll stay till 9, just to make sure that everyone who has registered has a chance to file that same night. We also try to, I didn't put this on there as well, but we also, as part of the volunteer training, do training clinics before we start our income tax sessions. So this will include new volunteers and current volunteers coming together and inviting their friends and family or individuals that they know who might want to come in and file their taxes before we open our clinics. And this way it allows the new volunteers to feel more comfortable with family members and having an additional support volunteer there with them to file for the first time. And it also allows them to ask questions that they might not feel comfortable asking an individual who walks in during a tax clinic, to ask those types of questions that they don't really understand, or it might be just the process of using the U-File software, or it might be a very specific tax related question a client might come in asking. It might not be related specifically to their income tax, but it might be something that they want to know for another individual in the community. And for advertising, there's 4 ways that our advertising gets across. The first one is word of mouth. Our number 1 advertising tool is the word of mouth. Individuals who have used our service are telling others about the service. We also notice that individuals who come to the clinics are recommending others to come and use the service as well. We also use Facebook posts or flyers. Community members are then able to share the posts with their friends and other community members. We also post flyers in the community, letting community members know what they need to bring and what date and time the service will be offered. Lastly, we post ads on our Wikwemikong TV5 channel. This works for community members living in the main village who have access to cable. These are just some of the previous ads that we've posted on Facebook and in the community. And then the second slide is what we've posted on our Wiki TV5 community channel. So it's very inexpensive to post on the channel. It's about $5 a week. So we try to put something on there every season as well. So we tell them about the program, the times of our clinics, what is the CBITP, eligible individuals, and then what they should be bringing with them. So that includes like the 2 pieces of ID, their tax slips, their T4As, their RC62s when they did have them. This is an old ad that we did. And then we let them know what we're not able to prepare. So that includes self-employment income, business and rental income, capital gains or losses, employment expenses, bankruptcy, or filing for a deceased person. One of the main concerns that we hear from community members wanting to file their income tax is what do we need to bring and what are tax slips. So as much as we're able to advertise to individuals what they should be bringing, we could say T4 as much as we want, but if they don't understand how the form looks or they don't understand its importance, it doesn't really mean anything. To help them, if they're calling in or if they come by to see what's happening in our service, what they should bring, We ask them to bring as much of their paperwork as they can. Individuals come in many times with a box full of slips, letters, and receipts. And then we kind of go through it with them to tell them, you know, what you should be filing, what's not, what you shouldn't be filing. And maybe this is, you should save this information and file it somewhere else. So if, you know, for example, they're saving receipts and they are not using their tax exempt card, then they should be filling out an HST exempt form so they can get that rebate back on the GST. We try to always go through the forms with them so that we're explaining it to them about the form's importance. We also let them know, you know, any letter that you get from the CRA, you should be keeping it, and you should making sure that you keep them in a place that's safe, so that, you know, for the next year's income tax filing, you have that already prepared for you. You know what? I'm very sorry. We go back one. The other one we try to do, we've learned this as well, is that when we're filing returns, we'd like to have both either the married couple or common law partners together. We find it very difficult to file when they're not together, only because one individual in the family will know more than the other. And it gets confusing for when we're claiming the income for the other partner. So having them there together, they're able to kind of bounce questions off of each other. They're able to answer together. And, you know, as one partner might be more confident than the other about their tax situation or their tax slips, maybe there's one individual in the household who does more of the paperwork. Having them together, it really helps. Okay, thank you. So as with advertising, we have found that the word of mouth is the best tool to get a lot of our messages across. When we're trying to educate clients about filing their taxes, we do notice that individuals who use the service for the first time, and we go through that process with them about these are tax slips, this is why they're important, this is what you should be doing with them, we find that they become better aware, and when they see the forms, they take care of them a little bit better. And they're storing them so that they know when the tax season comes, they'll have those prepared. The other one is that sometimes individuals who don't know what information they have on file, as long as they're able to provide information, we can also call the CBIT helpline to find out what those line numbers are, and that's a really big help, especially for individuals who are filing for the first time. This came into, it was really important when they started the RC62s, because individuals didn't know that was claimed as income. So a lot of times for families, we had to actually call in to the helpline to ask them what that line number was for income tax purposes. So that was really helpful. Individuals who use our service are telling other people about the service, and you know, they're also telling other people what they should be bringing. We place a lot of ads out there, but you know, the word of mouth is always a little bit better in our community and getting that message across. We do also get questions on Facebook. We try to private message the individuals back, so they're not really specific tax related questions. They're more about, you know, can this person or this one person come during this time? And we're like, yeah, that's fine. You can schedule an appointment. And when they come, then they kind of, they're able to ask us more questions when they come to the office. We also get individuals walking into our offices and asking about the program and asking if they're able to set up appointments. So our employer has been very generous with us, and they are allowing us, you know, in some capacity to be able to, you know, take appointments and work with these clients during non-work hours. So it's working out well there. I think in the last session, I did express though that, you know, it would be nice that in some way figure out a way, that's what we're still trying to work on, to have a 1 day a week or 1 day a month where we're able to help community members specifically with those tax related questions throughout the year. The next one is regarding how we do intake. So we've developed a one-page intake form. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We're still trying to figure this part out as well. So at our drop-in clinics, we have 1 or 2 intake workers and around 3 to 5 income tax preparers. So the intake workers work as our greeters and our processors. Clients are able to come into the clinic, register their name, and the intake worker will review their forms. The intake worker would then choose which tax preparer would fit with the client. So again, if it's a new volunteer, we try to make sure that those individuals go to if they have the no source of income or social assistance or very simple returns, we'll send them to the new volunteers first. We do come across individuals who don't fill out the form, but they're able to bring in their tax slips. So some individuals just don't feel comfortable writing anything on the form. They don't like, filling out their name, their date of birth, or any of that information. Some of them are more comfortable with, asking questions and follow-up questions to them than actually writing anything out on paper. So we try to work with all of the individuals. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult because you have a lot of more follow-up questions you have to ask them. So you might have to ask them, like, do you have dependents? How old are they? What's their date of birth? Or do you have a spouse? Or did you work? Were you employed anywhere during this one time? Some people actually work and but they work under the table. So you have to be like, well, it's not income that you're going to claim. So you don't have to worry about that. It's just if you know that you worked and you got a paycheck, that you're going to be claiming those amounts. Yeah. So this was a copy of our 2015 intake form. So it's basically information taken right from the UFile software, just asking information about the spouse, and then dependents, and then the hydro, wood, and oil, and then the Northern Energy Tax Credit on the second page. So again, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We do like to keep them, but then at the end of the night, we're able to shred them all after we do a count, just to make sure we have everyone. We do have tax preparer questions. So as a tax preparer, it's good that we're able to work off the intake forms. Again, if they're not able to put any information on the intake forms, it's about learning how to ask a lot of follow-up questions. So, as you're asking these questions to the participant, they're starting to open up to you. They're starting to respond back. Sometimes the questions lead you on tangents, but it's good to follow them sometimes because it kind of leads you back to them having a better comfort level and trusting you a little bit more to help them. We also noticed that there are some individuals who come through the door and they're about to file, but then something just puts them off, and they're like, okay, you know what? No, I gotta stop. I can't do this today. I'm gonna do it another time. The best thing that we've noticed is to accept that some people are just not ready, and leave the door open for them to come back again. So we're not going to be pushing them to file their taxes. We're just leaving it open so that they know we're there. Some people find it very emotional, especially if it deals with you're separating from a spouse, or you're claiming dependents, or you're not claiming dependents, or why you're not claiming anyone anymore, but you did the previous year. And it does open a lot of different emotions in a client. So having the respect to, say, well, you can come back again when you're ready. The door's always open. We do take appointments, and letting them decide. We actually learned this year when we did some of our financial literacy training with Prosper Canada, is letting clients know why they are receiving a certain amount of money, or if they're owing money, and letting them know about the benefits. So, when we did when we do our appointments and we let clients know, wow, you're getting this benefit back, you're going to be getting this amount per year, the clients are really like, wow, we're going to be getting this back. And it's very exciting for them, especially for first-time filers. They really like to see that. For clients who've not filed for like 6 or 10 years, it's the same thing. They didn't know that they would still have the potential to be offered those benefits. They thought, taxman, they're going to take everything from me if I file. So, it's good that they can see that, no, there's still potential and benefit to file every year that you can. And then the other one we learned was congratulating individuals for filing their income tax. I didn't understand that until I did it, but it actually works. Individuals who do it feel a sense of accomplishment. It's one less thing that they have to deal with or work with within the year, and it's it's one burden that they're not going to have to be like, yes, I have to do this later. But no, they're like, it's done for the year. So the role of financial literacy in our community. So as First Nation communities, we deal with multiple barriers. So I use multiple barriers because in my employment, that's what we deal with. As an employment and training officer, we look at clients who have multiple barriers. So when I'm talking about multiple barriers, we're talking about residential school trauma, children being apprehended by the CAS, lack of housing to high unemployment rates. And, a lot of this can seem very challenging. But one of the things you have to know is we're not unique. We're similar to other First Nation communities across Canada, facing many of the same issues. What is unique is how we choose to work through our challenges, how we come to solutions, and how we move forward. It requires us to look at ourselves as individuals, as a community, and as a First Nation. It's important to recognize that as a First Nation community, we might not fit into similar molds. So based on location and community dynamics, we will come to different solutions to our challenges. Having a group of communities networking together might also help those wanting to participate or start their own clinic. It will also allow communities to review their own tax-related questions that come up as part of their clinic, and where they're the question is, are there similar concerns? Are there similar workarounds that we can all use together and share that information with each other? When we're thinking of financial literacy, we're thinking of a very holistic approach to money and how we look at money. So that includes the spiritual, mental, and the physical. And it also requires us to recognize where we're coming from. We are all working at different stages in our life, and recognizing and accepting ourselves for where we are is an important step to personal wellness. And how we see ourselves moving forward. I think it's very broad at this time, but that we hope, I believe that community members become educated enough to feel comfortable with their own financial choices, that they can teach their children and family what they have learned, and in turn their children and family become more educated, that similar programs like the financial literacy program are integrated into our education system and local employment sector for understanding and awareness. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. There's a lot of great, rich insights that were shared. We're going to hand over to Simon Brascoupé from AFOA Canada, and Simon's going to share some insights from the tax clinic with the Ottawa Native Friendship Center and share some key insights.
Wikwemikong. I think we heard everything from Jocelyn. Last year was our first year, and so we're on a learning curve. And I appreciate a lot of the promising practices that you shared with us, because I think, oh, we can do that, So last year it was our first year, and I do volunteer work with the Ottawa Native Friendship Center, they're just a few blocks from us. So when I went over there, I talked to the finance officer, and she said, "Oh, I've been wanting to do this for years, and here's our opportunity." So we had 5 of our employees sign up to be volunteers. We didn't force them. It was a voluntold situation. They really wanted to participate, and some of them have done volunteer work in other provinces. So Ottawa is home to Indigenous families across Canada, First Nations, Inuit, Métis communities. And the Friendship Center is an excellent opportunity to do a clinic because they welcome everybody. You know, it's an open door. And of course, in Ottawa, we get families from all over Canada, Indigenous families. And ADAWA provides a wide range of services to children, youth, families, adults, and elders. And so the first year, our goal was to complete a modest 10 tax filings. And so one of the things that we learned was start early. We started late. So we started in January. And I think CRA was excellent support. They didn't scold me because, how come you're filing starting in January? So we got excellent service from them. We signed up and we did a sort of a live online tax training, which was excellent. And so when we set up, our big plan was to have people register, and of course, nobody registered. I think a couple of people came, and then everybody just showed up. And that's typical, I think, in our community. And so people just showed up at the door. I was the greeter, and we had 2 people that were experienced at tax filing, and somebody just walked in the door who'd been tax filing in other parts of Ottawa, and she said, I'd like to volunteer with you, and next year I'm going to bring in 2 or 3 of my friends, so we're looking forward to that this year. And so we did ours when the center is closing down, like at around 4 o'clock. So we did it from 4 to 7, 4 to 8. And it was, of course, if there's more people showing up later, we just kept our doors open until 9 o'clock. And the other thing we found was we set up for one day. We had to set up for the next week because, of course, people weren't bringing in all the materials. And it was very rewarding for me. You feel like you're giving back to your community, and this is an excellent way to do it. So we ended up doing 27 tax filings. So we went. So I guess the goal is to aim low, and you get a big. We could have 100 people this year, but we'll see. We can talk about that next year. CRA I think it was in October or. In October, send me a note saying, are you going to do the clinic again this year? Just tick off the box, send it back. I just said yes. There's no changes to our file, our registration. And then we followed up with the volunteers. I think I went around and told all volunteers, make sure you're registered. Then of course, who hasn't registered yet? Me. So I'm going to do that next week. But I think I'm really looking forward to this year. We're looking at doing 3, some for the elders in our community, and then we're going to do a sort of a regular one in March. I noticed yours were in April because it's the native way is always do everything at the last minute or at the right time. And so we'll again, of course, have something in mid-April. But we're really looking forward to doing it this year. And I think volunteering in our communities is important. Not only do you feel good about giving back to your community, but also sharing your time with the community members. Oh, last year we did pizza. We got pizza because around dinner time. So we got a bunch of boxes of pizza, and everybody was having a good time. But the couple of things that we did from the training was we made sure we had somebody to do the IT, and so we did that early. And we had different laptops, and the laptops are all different. So downloading stuff is. So I think that's one of the critical things is get in early, have a specialist IT person there to do that work. And then have junior volunteers and senior volunteers working together So I think, other than all the things that Jocelyn covered, I think that's critical. From a newbie in this area, I think the CVIT program is an excellent way to go because they do guide you through it. And that's it. Miigwech, thank you. Oh, so I'm going to turn it over to, who am I turning it over to?
Actually, we have the key insights on tax
Oh,
filing from the study.
oh, okay. All right. I'm still on. Can you believe it? They didn't kick me off yet. Okay, so we're going to talk about the CRA study that was released this past June. And there was a number of things in there. They talked about why people don't tax file. And I think Jocelyn covered many of it. But it's interesting that, people don't think they need to file because their income tax they're exempt, no income to declare, and that gets to the point of the benefits, limited tax, and a lot of people have limited financial literacy. The understanding the process, and I think that's what's important. Jocelyn pointed out, you're getting this return money back because of this. So you're educating people as you move forward, and then of course the cost associated. So I've heard many people say that what I'm going to get back is equivalent to what it's going to cost me. So why should I even file? So that's why these tax clinics are important, that you're saving the individual $150, $200, and that's money that they'll get back. No support, no one to help them complete their return. So sometimes reading the income tax forms that you get, it's hard to read. People don't understand them. You need an interpreter. And then of course there's concerns about owing back taxes. One of the elders in our communities said, I'm not sure if I owed tax. So they're waiting 10 years before they file. So they just had no idea. So that maybe they would, they would have got money back. So you don't know. So there's a lot of things that people say that's going on in the community. That's rules of thumbs that maybe shouldn't be rules of thumbs in our community. So let's look at the pros and cons. So the pros are getting a refund and a benefit payment. So that's always really good, exciting. It's a good habit to develop. The importance of having a paper trail and being on file with CRA. One of the things that I did was having your own account, and particularly somebody like me, you lose your paperwork, that's a bad thing, and you can just go on your own account and all your paperwork's there. Avoiding the inconvenience of back filing, and needing tax returns if one wants a loan or mortgage from a financial institution. So those are all pros for filing. So the CRA study looked at some of the cons, and some of what they were finding from First Nations was that they had problems, issues with CRA, hard to contact by phone, difficulty getting an answer. I don't know if Jocelyn's found that waiting 10 seconds on the phone is like waiting forever, So patience is important. Cost-related issues, the cost of filing that we talked about. Taxes and benefits. People have questions like, what do I owe? Am I going to get a rebate? What can I claim? And that's where the tax clinic comes in handy, because a lot of these answers can be provided by the preparers. Forms and supporting documents. Do you have T4, T5 slips, tax returns, receipts? And when we were with Wikwemikong, people were saving all their tax receipts to get a return on PST, HST at the end of the year. And that's a real bonus. Filing requirements experience. Why don't we get help from the band? So if you work with First Nations like myself, why isn't my chief and council doing this? Preparing my checks. Keeping your receipts, proof of expenses, so it becomes complicated. So we'll go to the next slide, talking about awareness. Jocelyn talked about word of mouth. In some of the communities, we call it EOC, like sort of like word of mouth. Everybody has, if you want to get something out there, say, I'm going to tell you something, but don't tell anybody else, and it'll get out. Maybe that's what CRA should do. File your tax. So the possible reasons for low awareness is limited. Now we're not talking about people having a limited education, but a limited awareness and education about tax filing and tax literacy, and I think that comes through what Jocelyn talked about, is providing that feedback and that positive reinforcement by saying, congratulations, you completed your tax for 2017. Awareness generated by word of mouth, we talked about that. Reactive versus proactive approach to information, and that's where word of mouth comes in, because people ask other people about different difficult topics. Awareness through filing. Limited income, so even if you have a low income or limited income, the benefits can double your income for the year. Lack of trust in the federal government, and that was one of the things that struck me in the study that was just released. And then I think CRA has been making an effort to reach out to communities, and I think that trust will be built over the years to come. And larger issues are around things like poverty and homelessness, and there are a lot of homeless people in our communities, couch surfing, no place to live, that sort of thing becomes an issue. Sources of awareness through word of mouth in our community, when filing taxes, through the tax preparer, providing that feedback, why you're getting a return, through family and friends. And I think the studies that AFOA has done is we get a lot of our information through family and friends. And there's always somebody in your family that knows it all and actually really does. Through news and local radio and television, Jocelyn talked about that. And through community services, through health services, in informing expectant mothers of the Canada Child Benefit, social services, informing people through social assistance. And this is one thing that I became aware of as I went around the country. Some First Nations will work through the mother and child programs or social services programs. So depending on the community, they have different approaches through people's work and through the CRA website. So costs associated. So I think the number of returns that Wikwemikong does, that Jocelyn was talking about, you're talking about saving, in this example that CRA gave us, they were saying that between $150 and $200 are saved. Natasha was talking about that earlier. but a community as large as Wikwemikong can save $100,000 to $200,000 through this volunteer tax clinic. That's money that community members do not have to pay. They keep it in their pockets. Competing tax filing for 100 members saves $15,000 to ensure 15K stays in the community. So I'm not saying that every community is going to save that much, but if you're a long distance from town, it does mount up. Sometimes people are getting taken advantage of by tax preparers. Okay, so now we're going to talk about ways to reduce barriers. And again, this is from the CRA study, in-community training and information related to tax filing, in-person outreach visits from CRA, and CRA has gone to many First Nations communities here in Ontario, in-community assistance to help people file, and integrating tax and financial literacy into the education curriculum. And I think Jocelyn made some excellent points about providing that information right there when people are thinking about, the reason why you're getting this tax back is because you're filing your tax, you're getting money back from your Canada Child Benefit and some of the other benefits that are available there. So that's the kind of story that gets transmitted to the aunts and uncles and cousins in the community. So again, the study says it's easy when the financial situation is comparatively simple. Jocelyn talked about giving those simple returns to the newbie preparer and the more complex ones to people that have more experience. Their financial situation does not change from year to year. They have all the required documentation. So if you've got a successful, you're getting money back from last year, you're going to be there with your paperwork. They file online and tax software packages. They use makes filing simple. I think the software that Jocelyn, keep talking about Jocelyn, but they found the software excellent. Being on social assistance entitles them to help completing and filing their return. So it becomes difficult when people lack supporting documentation, the lack of clarity regarding documentation required, obtaining the required documentation, frustration or challenges experienced with disputing a CRA decision. And I think that's where the tax clinic may help. You can help prepare a letter, read the letter, interpret the letter. Issues related to back filing tax returns. That seems to, a lot of people are unfamiliar with it, and I think the tax filers can help. Disagreement with CRA regarding what is considered taxable income. And again, the tax clinic can help there. The next slide we got more, seems like we have more difficulties. Disagreement with the CRA regarding back taxes and what is owed. And I guess, again, I'll just say that the tax clinic can help people prepare letters and phone calls. Complications arising from separation tax, child custody issues, and that's where you're more experienced. People come in handy. Problems arising from complicated financial situation, income earned on reserve versus off reserve, having to retain and submit receipts to CRA in order to claim HST exemption. That's pretty simple. You just keep your receipts. And general confusion, lack of understanding regarding forms and filing. I think these two slides really point to the benefit and strengths of having clinics, so that information is being fed back to the client very quickly. and then you're taking steps to resolve those issues. You know, I always feel good when somebody is looking after me and saying, "Here's what we're going to do." Oh, good, I feel good about that. Community challenges. So, it's always important to think about the context. Like housing is a challenge, and from community to community, housing has people moving from house to house could become an issue. Infrastructure, substance abuse and addictions, employment, jobs, poverty, and child and youth services. So, we have to think about our community from a holistic perspective, and the people that we are serving. So this is the why evaluate, and I'm a real keener on evaluations. I know in a lot of communities people are resistant to evaluations, but I think it's critical to understand why you're doing the tax clinic. It helps you explain to chief and council or your managers the benefit of the program that you're doing, so that they understand why you're having these tax clinics. I think sometimes we think that we do the tax clinic for 5 years and everybody knows how to file a income tax. And if you do an evaluation, some people feel that they're unable or unwilling to tax file themselves. So post-tax season provides a perfect opportunity to regroup, reassess, and plan for the next tax season. And that's what we've done with the Adawa Center. We met with Adawa, talked about what we're going to do for this year. Evaluation can show whether or not there was actually any significant change, and what you hope to influence. Can show connection between the various factors that may have an effect on the success of your clinic, like promotion. It can help you learn the reasons your work was effective or changes you need. So how does a free tax clinic benefit your community? I think the first one's obvious. We learned a couple of years ago that people weren't tax filing. By tax filing, the Canada Child Benefit and other benefits are now going to be flowing back into your community, which could represent tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars flowing back into your community. Increase financial knowledge, and I think feeling that you're confident about tax filing has an impact on a lot of other areas, like looking for work. Increase financial inclusion. Tax clinics increase accessibility of benefits that have not been assessed before by eligible community members, and contributes to the financial health of community members, which Jocelyn talked about. It's not just the physical, the money, but it has a physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual aspect. So how do you know if your tax clinic is working? So the first thing is participant count. Each volunteer tracks how many clients they're serving, and I think my role when I do the greeting is also I do make sure people are completing the evaluations. And the lesson here is identify the number of clients reached through the tax clinic. And I think there's two ways to count them: is the actual person that comes in, but also that if you're doing back tax filing, how many years you're doing, so that it'll be number of filings completed. Participant satisfaction, and so that helps you understand, have you met the needs of the participant? Are there things that you could do better? So it's a gain client feedback. like, I just loved your pizza last year. I was working all day, and the pizza helped me through the evening. Tax return worksheet. Each volunteer uses a worksheet to record the amount of returns. And I think these are critical because keeping everything in your head, particularly when you're doing a lot of tax filing, your brain just gets full of, lines and that sort of thing. And so having something written down is critical. And as Jocelyn said, at the end of the evening, you can shred those documents for privacy purposes. Financial wellness resources. Okay, so a little bit of advertising. Well, it's not really advertising because it's free. We have a managing your money, and we're encouraging you to have a look at that. It's based on animals, the animal stories. I'll just talk about the moose for a sec. The moose is perfectly adapted to the forest, to water, and these are the lessons that we hope to transmit to people as they set their goals, do budgeting, and work through. So organization coordinator checklist is, I'm going to pass it on. Thank you very much, Rich.
Thank you so much, Simon. So right now, I'm just going to go through a quick checklist. So if you are an organization coordinator, what you should take care of. And then I'll also go through a quick checklist for volunteers. And then as promised, I will show you how to get to our registration links and quickly go through that with you. So as you see here, this is the organization coordinator checklist. And a few important steps you want to take care of if you're interested in participating in the program. And you want to complete these steps as soon as you can. The first step is to register your organization, which will take place on the website, which I will show you shortly. The second step is you have to register yourself as a volunteer as well. So the coordinator of every organization also has to register. Third step, if you yourself will be electronically filing returns, register for an e-file number. Alternatively, if you'll be paper filing returns, you can also provide a police record check that was completed within the last 3 years. Once you've done that, you want to complete the clinic information form once it's requested from you by your local CVITP coordinator. And finally, once the training link is available in January, the coordinator will pass that to you, and you will be responsible for sharing that with your volunteers so they can register for the webinars. Then we have the volunteer checklist that each volunteer that wants to participate should take care of. First two steps are, all the steps are very important, but the first step is to first register as a volunteer on the CRA website. The second step is to affiliate with a registered CVITP organization. What that means is every single volunteer that participates in the CVITP must be affiliated with a clinic or a CVITP organization. Each volunteer that is looking to electronically transmit returns must register for an e-file number, or again, they can provide a police record check if they're preparing paper returns. And of course, once available, they can register for and attend all the volunteer training sessions once the link is shared with the organization coordinator. So we'll do a quick walkthrough just to get to the registration links. And the first step you want to do is you want to go to canada.ca, and this will take you to the home page. Click your preferred language, and this is the home page, and you'll see a search bar on the top right side. If you click on that search bar and type in CVITP and search, you'll see the first result is the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program. So if you click that link, it'll take you to the CVITP section of the website. Of course, this is kind of your source for all information pertaining to the program. If you're a coordinator and you're looking to host a clinic, you want to click on Volunteer to host free tax preparation clinics. When you click that link, it gives you some more information on how the program works and what you should foresee as a coordinator. And once you're ready to register your organization to host a clinic, you'll see the organization registration form right under the heading that says how to register. In addition to that, if you have any further questions, you can also contact the CVITP using the web form right here. So under need more information, there's a link that says contact a CRA coordinator. If you click that link, it is an actual web form where you can put your contact information and your inquiry, and you will receive a response within 2 business days. So any CVITP related questions, you can plug into here and submit that. Once you do your organization registration, or if you're just looking to register as a volunteer, you're going to click on volunteer at tax preparation clinics. And this, again, it goes over the important steps to get registered as a volunteer. So right under how to volunteer, the first step is to complete the online volunteer registration form. So you want to complete that. I assure you they don't take more than 5 to 10 minutes to complete. Once that online volunteer registration form is completed, as I mentioned, if you are electronically transmitting tax returns, you have to register for an e-file number. So under step 2, it does mention the e-file registration, and it also mentions that you can register, or if you have an existing e-file number for the CVITP, you can renew it at this link, the e-file link. And here's where you'll find the information for e-file and how to register or how to renew. And that is the end of the registration process.
Thank you so much to Vinoth and Simon and Jocelyn. I think there was a lot of great takeaways here. We have for our just under last 8 minutes time for any of the question and answers that have come in. So while Jonathan's doing a check there, I just wanted to underscore some of the key messages that came back to some of those promising practices that we heard. For those of you that are doing your clinics or starting up, and one of the key things that came from, I think particularly what Jocelyn was sharing, is that key of flexibility and meeting people where they're at, and some of that context for building that trust and comfort for filing. And I loved when you said sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and that kind of go with the flow. So recognizing there might be stressful times or peak services, and that adaptability that everyone can take to their service. And sometimes not getting all of the information at the first ask. So finding the way to ask questions comfortably, the follow-up questions to ensure to support community members in the getting all the info there. Thought also one of the promising practices you highlighted, and I think that's great for people that are bringing in new volunteers, or maybe you're volunteering for the first time, is how to ease in. So with that, those training clinics, so with you have the opportunity to engage family and friends in helping them with returns, using the volunteer helpline, and using that graduated process that Jocelyn explained of first with those simple returns and going from there. It was a really nice balance to hear of Simon, a first-time clinic, and then a clinic that's been operating for a few years. So I think that can highlight folks from there. Jonathan, do we have any questions that have come in that people wanted to share?
So we had one of the organizations that brought up a very good point, which I do appreciate. These type of feedbacks being brought to our attentions, and it helps us improve our future training and such. So one of the coordinators actually mentioned that a lot of the volunteers or of course individuals that comes in does not have a clear understanding of the tax slips, which is something that we can look into better explaining in trainings when we deliver it. We do our trainings in specific topics. We break it down in topics. At the same time, we can focus more on what type of slips you very likely will be seeing when someone comes in under this type of topic. Or, well, sometimes it's a mixture of different topics as well. That's why we also coordinate our training with multiple or sometimes a couple of topics when we do the same delivery of the training, right? So I appreciate the feedback, and if there's more, please let us know so that we can keep on improving the training that is more tailored for everyone.
I think that's a great feedback around and having those things coming forward to CVITP coordinators, or and Jocelyn shared the example as well of connecting between other sites. What are the challenges and what would be helpful for volunteers so that they can share that information to community members around what tax slips are involved, what forms are involved, and their purpose, so that an opportunity for clarifying that and providing extra training there. I think another key message there really is the power of word of mouth that came through really strong. We've had a conversation with another one of our First Nation partners who shared that they also did their first tax clinic last season. I think they did about 17 returns. And then periodically throughout the year, people have gone to her desk as the tenant counselor asking for help. So if you, as Simon said, setting that goal for how many community members you might want to serve, or trying it out for that first time, and you may find through that word of mouth and people having that positive experience that it's opening up the door for someone feeling comfortable and knowing that that service is available within the community. So I think that's a key message for us for ending on. I just want to turn around to the table if there's any other key messages folks wanted to underscore for going forward. Jocelyn. Excellent.
Just kind of going back to the CRA study that was done, and to kind of what we've been discussing. Just a few things. So the first one is, as a community volunteer organization, we do have a lot of challenges, but we always try to figure out what those challenges are and how we can address them in a very simple manner. Because we're doing it as a volunteer basis, we don't want to overcomplicate a lot of the processes that we put in place. So we don't want to also overwhelm community members with, demanding information from them. So we're always trying to be, we're trying to be as consistent as possible in our messaging to the community. And we're also trying to find ways to improve or enhance our service. This past year, one of our volunteers, Jennifer Pelche, has been working with our energy planner to help individuals who are filing their income tax to also apply for the OESP, which is the Ontario Electricity Support Program. So, help finding out where other supports are available and incorporating those into the tax program has been very beneficial. And individuals in the community know where to go for help. And one of the things that you don't want to do is confuse someone and send them to the wrong location or the wrong address. So knowing that they can come to our offices, seek help for a multitude of services is very important. And then the other one, just in closing, is, there are a lot of options for individuals. So, right now, a lot of people see it as a very negative experience, but, maybe it's not, maybe they're seeing it as a neutral experience. They're just something that becomes part of their daily life. And, the idea of owing money might not have to seem so overwhelming to an individual. There are possibilities for certain types of tax credits that they can offer, such as, if they've gone to school, there's those tuition tax credits that they're able to access. There could possibly be medical information that they can claim. There's donations when they're donating to charities. If they have dependents and they put their children in, sports activities. But, there are always a lot of opportunities for individuals to find ways to, reduce or limit how much they owe the government if those are issues. And then, on a broader aspect is, removing that negative stereotype that we feel about filing our taxes. That's important. We don't want individuals to feel that they're being forced to do something, but at the same time, accessing those benefits helps a lot of individuals, especially seniors and individuals with low incomes. So just, providing a very simple service to help individuals with their daily life activities.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. I think those are great key messages and a final good point to end on. We're coming into our last final seconds, so thank you to everyone who's made time to join us today for your questions and feedback. We'll be sending you, as per the last webinar, an email with the slides, the recording, registration links that the CRA shared with us today, as well as the guide and post-webinar survey. And we have a few links there for you for the Prosper Canada webpage for other webinars if you're interested, and a link to the Prosper Canada newsletter. And thank you again to everyone, and we will look forward to the next time we join you.